This is a reading from the Mystical City of God, the Coronation, by Venerable Mary of Agreda, Volume 4, Chapter 3, completing the explanation of the 21st chapter of the Apocalypse. 26. This holy city of Jerusalem, Mary, our mistress, according to the evangelist, having the glory of God and the light thereof, was like to a precious stone, as to the jasper stone, even as a crystal. From her very beginning, the soul of the Most Holy Mary was filled, and as it were bathed in new participations of the divinity, such as was never seen or known of any other creature, for she alone was the aurora sending forth the splendors of the sun, Christ, true God and man, to whom she was to give birth, and this divine light and clearness went on increasing until she reached the highest state, seated at the right hand of her Son on the very throne of the Blessed Trinity, and clothed in the variety of all the gifts, graces, virtues, merits, and glory beyond all creatures. Psalm 44, verse 10. When I saw her in this place of inaccessible light, it seemed to me that she possessed no other splendor than that of God himself, who seemed to communicate it to her from the fount and origin of his immutable being. Through the humanity of his only begotten, the same light and clearness seemed to be both in the Mother and the Son, each according to their degree, yet in substance seeming one and the same, not found in any of the other blessed, nor in all of them together. In variety she seemed like jasper, in preciousness she was inestimable, and in beauty of body and soul she was like translucent crystal, permeated by the very substance of clearness and light. 27. And it had a wall great and high, having 12 gates, and in the gates 12 angels, and the names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. On the east 3 gates, and on the north 3 gates, and on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. The wall which defended and enclosed this holy city of Most Holy Mary was so great and high as is God himself, and all his omnipotence and divine attributes. For all the power and greatness of God, his immense wisdom, were called in requisition to fortify, to secure, and defend this great lady from the enemies that might assault her. And this invincible defense was redoubled when she descended to live alone in the world, without the company of her divine Son, and to establish the new church of the gospel. For this purpose she held at the disposal of her will, in a new manner, God's own power against all the enemies of the church, visible and invisible. Since after the foundation of this new city of Mary, the Most High threw open most liberally all his treasures, and since he wished to call through her all mortals to the knowledge of himself and to the eternal happiness, the Gentiles, Jews, barbarians, without distinction of nationality or estate, therefore he built this holy city with 12 gates opening up toward all directions of the world. In them he placed the 12 angels who were to call and invite all the children of Adam, and especially rouse all men to devotion and to piety toward their queen. In these gates are also the names of the 12 tribes of Israel, in order that no one might think himself excluded from the sacred refuge of this heavenly Jerusalem, and in order that all might understand that Most Holy Mary holds their names written in her heart, and intimately connected with the favors she received of the Most High as the mother of clemency and mercy, and not of justice. 28. And the wall of that city had 12 foundations, and in them the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. When our great mother and mistress was at the right hand of her Son and God in the throne of his glory, she offered herself to come back to the world to plant the church. Thereupon the Lord charged her especially with the care of the apostles, and wrote their names in the inflamed and pure bosom of that heavenly instructress, where we would see them written, if that were possible to our mortal eyes. Although at that time there were only 11 names of the apostles, that of Matthias was selected beforehand to take the place of Judas. And because upon the wisdom and love of this great lady depended the doctrine, the instruction, the firmness, and entire government by which we 12 apostles and St. Paul were to found the church, on this account our names are written in the foundation of this mystical city of Mary, for she is to be the mainstay and the groundwork of the Holy Church and of its founders, the apostles. By her doctrine she taught us. By her wisdom she enlightened. By her charity she inflamed us. By her patience she bore with us. By her meekness she drew us on. By her counsel she governed us. By her advice she prepared us for her work. And by the dispensation of her heavenly powers she delivered us from dangers. To all she rendered assistance as if there were but one that needed it, and each one she helped as if each were a multitude. To us 12 apostles were these gates opened up more widely than to all the children of Adam. While our mistress lived, she never failed in protecting each one of us, but remained present with us at all times and places, defending us and protecting us without fail in all our necessities and labors. From this great and powerful Queen, and through her, we participated and received all the blessings, graces, and gifts of the Most High, in order that we might be fit ministers of the New Testament. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6. For these reasons were our names written in the foundations of the walls of this mystical city, the most blessed Mary. 29. And he that spoke to me had a measure of a reed of gold, to measure the city and the gates thereof, and the wall. And the city lieth in a foursquare, and the length thereof is as great as the breadth. And he measured the city with the golden reed for 12,000 furlongs, and the length and the height and the breadth thereof are equal, in order that I might understand the immensity of this holy city of God. The one that spoke to me measured it in my presence. For measurement he had a hollow cane or a reed of gold, which symbolized the deified humanity of the world, with its gifts, graces, and merits, and in which were united the frailty of the human and terrestrial nature with the precious and inestimable essence of God, exalting the humanity and its merits. Although this measure so greatly exceeds that which it was to measure, namely the Blessed Mary, yet in all the heavens and the earth nothing else could be found to measure the most holy Mary and her greatness than her own Son and true God. For all the creatures, human and angelical, were inferior and unsuited to the measurement and exploration of this mystical and divine city. But measured by her Son, she was found commensurate with him, as a mother worthy of him, without failing in anything belonging to this dignity. Her greatness was 12,000 stadia, equal in all its dimensions, hence it forms a cube, proportionate in all its parts. Such was also the proportion and immensity of the gifts of the great Queen, so that if the saints each received 5 or 2 talents, she received in proportion 12,000 of each gift, reaching immense magnitude. Though she was already measured thus, when she passed into existence by her immaculate conception, prepared for the mothership of God, yet she was measured again on this occasion when she returned from the right hand of the eternal Son, and her dimensions were proportionate to take the place and office of her Son and Redeemer of the world. 30. And the building of the wall thereof was of jasper stone, but the city itself pure gold, like to clear glass. And the foundations of the walls of the city were adorned with all manner of precious stones. The doings and the outward behavior of Most Holy Mary, which, like the walls surrounding a city, are visible to all, were of such wondrous beauty and variety that merely by her example she conquered and attracted the hearts of all that looked upon her or conversed with her. By her sole presence she routed the demons and all his fantastical illusions, and therefore the walls of this city were of jasper. By her conduct and labors, as far as they became known exteriorly, our Queen produced more fruits and wrought greater wonders in the primitive church than all the apostles and saints of that age. The interior of this city was of the finest gold, of inexplicable clearness, participated from her own Son, and so closely resembling the light of the infinite being that it seemed but the reflex of it. And this city was not only of the finest and most precious gold, but it seemed as of the purest and transparent glass, for she was an immaculate mirror of the divinity, admitting no other image. She was like a crystalline tablet on which was written the evangelical law. In her it should become known to the whole world. Therefore this tablet was of clear glass, and not of opaque stone, as that of Moses. For one people only. All the foundations and the walls of this great city were of precious stones, for it was founded by the hand of the Most High, who, being rich and powerful, built it without stint or measure, with whatever was most precious, estimable, and secure of all his gifts, privileges, and favors. These were typified by the most solid, rich, beautiful, and valuable stones known among men. Let the 10th chapter of this first book, first part, be consulted. 31. And the 12 gates of the city are 12 pearls, one to each, and every several gate was one of several pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord Almighty is the temple thereof, and the Lamb. He that comes to this holy city of Mary and enters through faith, hope, veneration, piety, and devotion will find it a precious pearl that will make him fortunate, rich, and prosperous in this life, and blessed through her intercession in the next. He will feel no repugnance in entering this city of refuge, because its gates are lovely and desirable, like rich and precious gems. Hence no mortal will have an excuse if he does not avail himself of the most blessed Mary, and of her kindness toward the sinners. For there is nothing in her which is not capable of attracting the soul to her and to eternal salvation. If the gates then are so beautiful and precious to all that approach them, then much more beautiful will be the square of this city, for it is of the purest gold and translucent, which signifies her most ardent love and desire to admit all and enrich them with the treasures of eternal happiness. For this purpose she manifests herself to all in the clearest light, and no one will find in her the darkness of deceit or falsehood. And because into this holy city of Mary came God himself, and in an especial manner, and the Lamb, her own Son, in sacramental form, thus filling and occupying her. Therefore I saw in her no temple and no propitiatory except the omnipotent God and the Lamb. Nor was it necessary to build a temple in this city for the ceremonious offering of prayers and petitions as in other cities, for God himself and her divine Son were her temple, and they were attentive and propitious to all her petitions, prayers, and requests offered for the faithful of the church. 32. And this city hath no need of the sun, nor of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of the Lord hath enlightened it, and the Lamb is the lamp thereof. After our Queen had returned to the world from the right hand of her divine Son, her spirit was enlightened, not only in the manner common to the saints, nor only in the manner she had been enlightened before her ascension, but in recompense for the clear vision and fruition of which she deprived herself, in order to return to the militant church. Another kind of vision, an abstractive and continual vision of the divinity, was conferred upon her, and with it was joined another kind of fruition proportionate to it. Hence, in a manner peculiar to her, she participated in the state of the comprehensors, though she was yet a pilgrim. Besides this privilege, she enjoyed also another, that her divine Son in the sacramental species of bread remained continually within her bosom, as in his proper tabernacle. For whenever she received Holy Communion, the sacred species were not dissolved until she received them the next time, so that as long as she lived in the world, after her descent from heaven, she bore with her, without intermission, her divine Son and sacramental God. By a special kind of vision, she also saw him within herself and conversed with him without the necessity of seeking his royal presence anywhere outside of herself. She bore him within her bosom and could say with the spouse, I hold him and will not let him go. Canticle chapter 3, verse 4. Hence there could be no night in this holy city, where grace shone as the moon, nor was there need of any other rays than those of the Sun of Justice, since she possessed them in all plenitude, and not only in part, as the rest of the saints. 33. And the nations shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth shall bring their glory and honor into it. No excuse or justification can the banished children of Eve have, if by the divine light which Mary gave to the world, they do not walk in the path of true happiness. In order that she might enlighten his church in the first age, her Son sent her and made her known to the first children of his holy church. In the course of ages, he has continued to manifest her holiness and greatness by the wonders performed by this Queen, and by innumerable favors and blessings flowing from her hands upon mankind. In these last ages, which are the present, he will spread her glory and make her known in new splendor, on account of the Church's great need of her intercession and of her help against the world, the demon, and the flesh. For these, through men's own fault, as we see even in our day, will assume greater sway and strength to hinder the workings of grace in men and to make them more unworthy of glory. Against this new malice of Lucifer and his followers, the Lord wishes to oppose the merits and intercession of purest Mary, and the light sent into this world by the example of her life. She is to be the refuge and sanctuary of sinners, and the straight and secure way, full of splendor, for all that wish to walk upon it. 34. If the kings and princes of the earth would walk in that light, and seek their honor and glory in this city of Mary, and employ the greatness, power, riches of their states in advancing the honor of her name and that of her most holy Son, then they should rest assured that, being directed by this North Star, they will be assisted in the exercise of their dignities and will govern their states with great success. In order to renew this confidence in our Catholic princes, professors, and defenders of the faith, he discloses all that I now and in the course of this history have been made to understand and record. For this reason, the highest King of kings and the restorer of monarchies has given the most holy Mary the title of patroness, protectress, and advocate of these Catholic kingdoms. Through this singular blessing, the Most High has resolved to remedy the calamities and difficulties which the Christians, on account of their sins, are to endure and suffer, and which in our times we sorrowfully and tearfully are sustaining. The infernal dragon has poured out his froth and fury against the Holy Church because he sees the carelessness of its heads and members, and because he sees so many men in love with vanity and delusive pleasures. The greater part of the guilt and its punishment falls upon those who call themselves Catholic, whose offenses, as being those of children, are more heinous, for they know the will of their heavenly Father who dwells on high, and yet do not strive to fulfill it more earnestly than the strangers. Though knowing that the kingdom of heaven suffers violence and must be gained by labors, they have nevertheless given themselves over to idleness and pleasure, temporizing with the world and the flesh. This dangerous deceit of the demon the just judge punishes by the demon himself, giving him, in his just judgments, the liberty to afflict the Holy Church and scourge its children with rigor. Instruction given to me by the great Queen. 35. But the Father of mercies, who is in heaven, does not permit the works of his kindness to be entirely undone. And in order to preserve them, he offers us the opportune protection of Most Holy Mary, in order that through her prayers and intercession his divine justice may find some pretext or excuse for the suspension of the rigorous chastisements hanging over us. He wishes to wait and see whether we shall avail ourselves of the intercession of this great Queen and Lady of Heaven for pacifying the just indignation of her divine Son, and whether we shall amend our lives by which we make ourselves unworthy of his mercy and provoke his justice. Let not the Catholic princes and the inhabitants of these kingdoms neglect this occasion, wherein the Blessed Mary offers the days of salvation and the acceptable time of her protection. Let them exalt the glory and honor of this Queen by devoting themselves entirely to the service of her divine Son and of her, in thankfulness of the blessings of the Catholic faith, which has been preserved until now so pure in these kingdoms. For both mother and son have, through this preservation of the faith, shown to the world their singular love toward these kingdoms, and they now show it again by vouchsafing this salutary advice. Let them, therefore, zealously strive to employ their power and their influence for spreading and exalting the name of Christ and that of Most Holy Mary through all the nations. Let them believe that in order to oblige the Son, there can be no more efficacious means than to exalt his mother with due reverence and to spread the knowledge and veneration of her through all the nations of the world. 36. For a still greater proof and testimony of the clemency of the most blessed Mary, the evangelist adds, "And the gates thereof shall not be shut by day, for there shall be no night there, and they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. Let no one, even though he has been neglectful and a sinner, an infidel, or a pagan, approach the Mother of Mercy with diffidence. She who deprived herself of the glory of the right hand of her Son in order to assist us cannot shut the portals of kindness to anyone that seeks relief with an humble heart. Whether he arrives in the night of sinfulness or in the day of grace, at any hour of his life he shall be admitted and assisted. If he who calls in the middle of the night at the door of a true friend will force him, either through his necessity or importunity, to rise and help him with the desired bread, what will not she do, who is so loving a mother, who calls us and earnestly invites us to the remedy? Luke chapter 11, verse 8. She will not wait until we ourselves importune her, for she hastens to assist. She is eager to respond, most sweet and delightful in her favors, and most liberal in enriching us. She is the leaven of mercy, inducing the Most High to grant it. She is the portal of heaven, opened up for our entering through her intercession and prayers. Thou shalt not enter into it anything defiled, nor deceitful. She is never roused to indignation or hatred against men. In her there is no deceit, no fault or defect. She cannot fail in anything that mortals may need for their salvation. We have no excuse or pretext for not going to her with humble acknowledgement, since she, being pure and spotless herself, will purify and cleanse us also. She holds the keys to the fountains, from which, as Isaiah says, we may draw the waters of the Redeemer. Her intercession, in response to our petitions, will turn these keys so that the waters will gush forth to wash us and to make us worthy of her most blessed company, and that of her divine Son for all the eternities. Instruction given to me by the great Queen and Mistress of the angels. 37. My daughter, I wish to tell thee for thy comfort and the comfort of my servants, that thou hast written of these mysteries in these chapters to my great satisfaction, and with the approbation of the Most High. He wishes the world to know what I have done for the Church in coming back from the empyrean heaven to assist the faithful, and how much I desire to help the Catholics who seek my aid in accordance with the commands of God and my own maternal affection. The saints also, and especially St. John, were particularly rejoiced that thou hast made mention of their jubilee at seeing me ascend with my Son and Lord. For it is time that the children of the Church should know this, and understand more fully the blessings to which the Omnipotent has raised me. They are thereby to enliven their hope and make themselves more capable of the favors I can and will bestow upon them. Let them know that I, as a loving mother, am filled with pity at seeing them so deceived and oppressed by the tyranny of Satan, to whom they have blindly fallen victims. St. John, my servant, has concealed many other sacraments in the 21st and the 12th chapter of the Apocalypse, concerning the favors shown me by the Almighty. In the course of this history thou hast revealed those which the faithful can profitably know at present, and thou shalt reveal still more. 38. But thou must without delay, gather for thyself the fruits of all thou hast understood and written. First of all, thou must advance in heartfelt love and devotion toward me, and be convinced that I shall be thy help in all tribulations, thy constant assistance in all thy works, that the portals of my mercy are opened up for thee, and for all whom thou recommendest to me, if only thou shalt make thyself such as I desire. Therefore I inform thee, my dearest, and urgently remind thee that in the same manner as I was fitted out in heaven for returning and engaging in a more perfect activity on this earth, so the Lord desires thee to be renewed in the heaven of thy interior, in the secret and superior parts of thy spirit, in those private exercises by which thou hast created the interior solitude for writing the rest of this life. Understand that all this has not been brought about without special providence of God, which thou wilt easily see in pondering over and recording thy experiences before beginning this third part. Now that thou art left alone and art freed from the government and daily intercourse of this community, I give thee this advice, and there is now especial reason that with the divine favor thou renew thyself in the imitation of my life, and in putting into practice as far as possible what thou knowest of me. This is the will of my divine Son, and is in harmony with my own wishes, with thy own wishes. Hear then my teaching, and gird thyself with fortitude. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 17. Resolve with all the powers of thy will to be attentive, fervent, constant, eager and diligent in seeking to please thy spouse and Lord. Accustom thyself never to lose him out of sight, even when thou descendest to intercourse with creatures and engagest in the works of Martha. I shall be thy teacher. The angels shall stand by thee, so that with them and by means of their enlightenments thou continually praise the Lord. The Most High will lend thee his strength, so that thou mayest fight his battles with his and thy enemies. Do not make thyself unworthy of such great blessings and favors.